Hey, greetings, everyone. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West here, and welcome to the Steadfast and Loyal program.
You gotta light 'em up before they burn it down. Better dig deep, put 'em in the ground. Blood on their hands, they're hellbound. Save us all. Ooh, they're gonna burn it down. Save us all before they burn it down.
You know, we're sitting around with bated breath, and maybe we already know, but I want to talk about the lost utility of Joe Biden, because that's really what we're seeing. You know, Joe Biden served a certain purpose for the Democrat Party 4 years ago, because what they wanted to do was create this image, create this individual, you know, the nice Uncle Joe, the Scranton Joe, and all of these type of things. You know, your grandpa, your uncle, the nice calm man who was going to unify and bring the country together. And then they hit him in the basement. It just so happened that COVID was going on in 2020, so it gave them the perfect excuse, the perfect reason why not to have him out. And they brought him out for a couple of occasions, you know, which was very well scripted, very well controlled, except for that interview he did with Charlemagne the God, where all of a sudden he tells me that I ain't black, really black, if I don't vote for him. Condescending, offensive. But then again, when you go back and you look at the history of Joe Biden, I mean, he has always made condescending and offensive and racist remarks. Let's never forget that he eulogized a former Grand Wizard of the KKK, Robert Byrd. Let's not forget the crime bill that he brought up, and let's not forget how he referred to black men as predators. But all of that stuff kind of got pushed aside because, you know what? We got to get Joe in. And the whole purpose and the whole target of the campaign in 2020 was Donald Trump's evil. Orange man bad. We got to get rid of Donald Trump. You weren't allowed to talk about Joe Biden. He was hidden away. You weren't allowed to talk about Trump's issues. No, it was just about one thing: get Donald Trump out. And Joe Biden served a utilitarian purpose to that end. The left didn't want to talk about the economy. They still don't want to talk about the economy. They didn't want to talk about foreign policy, national security. They didn't want to talk about any of these things. They basically, just the same with Barack Obama, they focused on an image. And as Obama said, I'm a blank slate. Draw upon me as you wish. That's what they like. But now, all of a sudden, what happened? And this is kind of funny because this comes back to that old saying that we had down south: don't be too cute for yourself. Because all of a sudden they come up with this thing that, oh, we want a couple of debates in July and then in September. We want these early debates. And we want CNN to do one and whomever on our side to do the other. And everybody's like, oh, man, this is a setup. Trump shouldn't do it. No, he was absolutely right to say, you got it. I'll debate you anytime, any place. I'll go into your arena, kind of like Maximus in Gladiator. When he goes into the arena and Commodus has, you know, the tigers set up against him. I mean, he just tries to do everything he can, but he doesn't win. So what happened in that debate was that Joe Biden was not in the basement anymore. Joe Biden was not hidden anymore. No one could tell us that this was a cheap fake. No one could, create this narrative that it was just a bad day. He had problems going up the stairs to Air Force One. So what do? They put the little baby steps now for he can come down out of the belly of the aircraft. Joe Biden was completely exposed in that debate. And then now, all of a sudden, it is not about we should change our policies. It's not about, well, we've lied to you. It's about the utility of Joe Biden has passed away. They can't hide it anymore. So they got to get a new face. See, the thing in politics, the thing in political races, I always say that there are two phases. There's an image phase and there's a message phase. Constitutional conservatism, those policies, those things that are rooted in the foundational documents of the United States of America, Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, those policies always produce positive results. But the left doesn't want to talk about that. What the left is focused on is image. That's, Bill Clinton, the simple guy from Hope, Arkansas. I feel your pain, America. But, if it weren't for that first midterm debacle, Bill Clinton may not have pivoted and ended up benefiting from really the policies of Newt Gingrich that created a balanced budget. I remember Bill Clinton saying that the era of big government is over. Can you imagine a Democrat saying that today? He'd be roasted. Barack Obama comes along, all about image. We're going to fundamentally transform America. Yay! If you own a business, you didn't build that. Yay! No message, just image. I remember some friends of mine asking me why I didn't support Barack Obama. I said, well, because I read his books. I looked at his history. I looked at his, legislative background, however unaccomplished it was. Guy voted president a lot. But the main thing was that I didn't get caught up in the aura of Obama, the image of Obama, the beautiful iambic pentameter speech rhetoric. And so I challenged some friends of mine. I said, do it as you wish. I said, don't look at a speech that he gives. Try to see if you can get the transcript of the speech and read the speech, read the words and understand. And I had a couple of friends that took me up on it. And they said, what is this guy talking about? We're the hope that we have been waiting for. What in the Sam Hill does that mean? But when you're standing up there and you've got all the right things going on, sounds great. But there was no real message. But if you tried to talk about the policies of Barack Obama, you were a racist. And even today, if you try to talk about the policies of the progressive socialist left, you're an enabler. Even as a black man, I'm the black face of white supremacy. That's what they said about Larry Elder out in California. Everything comes back to that. If you're in the Asian American community and you don't like this reverse discrimination based upon affirmative action, now all of a sudden Asian Americans are enabling white supremacy. This is what we're up against. And so there is no utility in Joe Biden anymore. They can't create an image around him. They can't create an aura around him. The gig is up. We have had the opportunity, much the same as in The Wizard of Oz, to peek around behind the curtain. We don't see this all-powerful Oz. We just see a simple man who is now somewhat mentally impaired, and someone else is manipulating all of the levers. So they're scrambling. They're trying to figure out what to do. But the bottom line is it's not about who they replace Joe Biden with. The policies don't change. The issues don't change. Their ideological agenda does not change. And we need to be savvy enough to understand that. They're just looking at another image. They're looking at another utility player that they can bring out to hoodwink us. I mean, they tried that with Hillary Clinton. She was going to be the first female president, break through the glass ceiling, blah, 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 blah. But her image, her actual image and personality was horrible. They couldn't create anything around her. And of course, when you go out and you talk about a basket of deplorables, that really doesn't help you a lot. They did everything they could. I mean, they basically gave her a Senate seat. The woman is from Chicago, Illinois. When they leave the White House, the Clintons, they move to New York. They run her for Senate. Of course, she's going to win the Senate race. And then, of course, they bring her in and they make her the Secretary of State. And oh, by the way, in the Obama administration, the Secretary of State, an ambassador lost his life in Libya. But then again, at this point, what difference does it make? And they try to cover all of that stuff up. Yeah. Did I destroy, yeah. Did I bleach it with what? I mean, what type of bleach did I use? I mean, everything she tried to make a joke of, but the people just didn't buy into her. So what image are they going to try to put out there for us now when we can't afford groceries? When we can't afford to fill up our gas tanks, when we can't afford to take our, families on vacation. I mean, you can, but you have to tap out your credit card. People are cashing in their 401ks. We've got young American women being murdered by illegal immigrants. We've got terrorist cells forming in the country. We've got ourselves involved and embroiled in all of these chaotic events. We've got Americans being held hostage by an Islamic terrorist organization, and yet we have people on the left that are out supporting that Islamic terrorist organization. They don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about what Gavin Newsom just signed into law out there in California, the fact that your children are not your own in California. If your child decides they want to be a different gender, he signed into law. They don't have to talk to you, mommy, daddy, because as the left believes that those aren't your children. They belong to them. If you are someone that is speaking out at a school board meeting, you're a domestic terrorist. Not the real domestic terrorist, but you're a domestic terrorist. If you're there at a center that is dismembering babies in the womb, or in California where they believe that you should do that all the way up to the time of birth and maybe even afterwards, which is infanticide, they don't want to talk about those things. I mean, they try to mask it with certain language, reproductive rights, reproductive health care. Rights for who? So the utility of Joe Biden is gone, so now they got to put somebody else up there, but nothing's going to change. Do you think some new person is all of a sudden going to say that, oh, yeah, let's secure the border. Let's not soak the rich. Let's not raise taxes. Let's just disavow this thing called inflation and continue to manipulate interest rates to the point where they're so high, most folks can't go out and buy a new home, can't buy a new car. No. So what do they do now? We'll discuss that when we come back after these messages.
Hey folks, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West here at Watchtower Firearms. This is the custom design AR-15 that was just made for me. It's got my Steadfast and Loyal logo there. On this side, you can see my signature, my master parachutist wings, of course, American flag. And I just want to tell you that you can't be a great American unless you have a great American weapon. And that's exactly what Watchtower Firearms is building. Great American weapons, all American parts, manufactured right here in the great state of Texas. And oh, by the way, let me see, where is the serial number on this one? TX1836. If you're from Texas, I think you know what that means. God bless you. God bless Watchtower.
Hit, dead center. Yes.
Hey, welcome back to the Steadfast and Loyal program. I finished off by, in the first segment, asking what does the Democrat Party, the Progressive Socialist Left, do now? Kamala Harris has an approval rating worse than Joe Biden's. And they really don't want to run on the Biden administration record. So you got to try to maybe get someone that they can disavow that and lie to the people once again. And the media can support that lie and create the image to say that we're going to do things different. We're not going to, go down that path. And they want to have someone that can get out there and campaign saying, well, I'm not Joe. I'm not here to represent the policies of the Biden administration. Wink, wink. Because nothing's going to change. And if you live by the politics of identity politics, then you will die by the politics of identity politics. So if you skip over Kamala Harris, well, all of a sudden you risk losing a good chunk of the black electoral vote. We already see 20 to 25% is shifting over to President Trump. High numbers also in the Hispanic community. But now all of a sudden, what happens when the sister girls, to be very honest, I mean, I'm black, I can say this, but the sister girls all of a sudden see the sister girl get disrespected. I mean, remember Kamala Harris came here just a couple of weeks ago to Dallas for her sorority confab. She then go down to Houston to talk to the family of Jocelyn Nangare, the 12-year-old young girl who was brutally raped for 2 hours by illegal immigrants allowed into this country because of the Biden-Harris agenda. Oh, by the way, isn't she the border czar? No, she didn't go down and talk to Jocelyn Nangare. See, they don't want those things to be brought up. So who do they go to? Doesn't matter. Gavin Newsom, give me a break. Gretchen Whitmer, give me a break. Pritzker of Illinois, that's a real success story. Who's the governor? Phil Murphy, New Jersey? Nah, that dog don't hunt. Jared Polis of Colorado? I don't think so. First of all, you got to try to introduce him to everybody. So it does not matter. What they have to do right now is try to tamp down the confusion and the chaos, which is of their own making. And so therefore, when you have this desperate political opponent, do you really think all of this rhetoric about, well, we got to tamp down the temperature? You think they're going to abide by that? Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, I was looking, Van Jones, CNN, called J.D. Vance a dangerous virus, an authoritarian. Vice President Kamala Harris, he's an extremist who's just going to continue on with the extremist agenda of Donald J. Trump because they have nowhere else to go. So they're cornered. That means they're going to be just as or even more so vicious than they have been before. They can try to get someone new that says that, I have no association with the policies of the Biden administration. Well, then what are your policies? How are they going to differ? Well, you can't differ too much because then the progressive socialist leftist base that really does control that party will go into an apoplectic fit and a meltdown. It's going to be real interesting in Chicago in August for their convention. And that brings me to this transition point. We just watched the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. First and foremost, I'll say it was very well done. I've been to several previous conventions, Cleveland, Tampa Bay, participated in the one in Charlotte, North Carolina, although it was more of a virtual one in 2020. But I have never seen, and even Van Jones agrees with that, I had never seen such message discipline as I saw from Republicans in that convention. Because normally the people that have this quote unquote message discipline is the left. They always say the exact same thing, every single one of them. Right now, they're all over the place. They're in complete disarray. But what did we see? We saw a theme. Make America Great Again. And we saw Make America Wealthy first night. Make America Safe. Make America Strong. And then you closed out with President Trump with his acceptance speech and about how we can restore and make America great again. I've never seen such consistency. And furthermore, I've never seen the ability to truthfully go out there and get everyday Americans, EDAs, and they talked about their story. See, it's one thing for a politico to stand up there and talk about fentanyl poisoning. It's another thing for a mother to stand up there and talk about her teenage son being the victim of fentanyl poisoning. It's one thing to talk about crime out on the streets. It's another thing to get a mother that stands up there and talks about her son, who is a veteran, survived combat deployments, but yet is killed on the streets by a district attorney named Alvin Bragg in New York that allowed a criminal to go back out onto the streets. I guess Alvin Bragg was just too busy taking a misdemeanor and upgrading it to a felony and going after Donald Trump. And I don't think even Alvin Bragg, if you sat him down and said, Mr. Bragg, you got 3.5 minutes. Explain to us this crime and why I should be concerned about it of President Trump. I don't think he could explain it. As a matter of fact, Judge Juan Merchant, his orders to the jury were so convoluted that they had to come back a second time and say, can you please tell us our orders again before we go into deliberation? And remember, he didn't write it down. It was just all verbal. And that was all over the place. Kind of like a smorgasbord. So when you have individuals that are standing up there, when you have someone that says, my 37-year-old sister, mother of 5, was out for a walk on a trail that all of us walk on, except she's dead because of illegal immigrants who were allowed into this country that killed her. See, that's powerful. When you have a person that says, I ain't never been a Republican, been a Democrat all my life, and I've, been an educator, but I don't see Democrats standing up for parental rights and parental choice and educational freedom. What I do see are kids in the inner cities being relegated to failing schools to the point where they're not reading and doing math at grade level. That was an incredible 4 days. But now that you're done, kind of reminds me of the 1972 political movie starring Robert Redford as the U.S. senatorial candidate, Bill McKay. The name of the movie was The Candidate. His last line in that movie after he won that Senate race was, what do we do now? So this is what has to happen going forward. Don't, as Napoleon once said, never interfere with your enemy when he is destroying himself. Don't worry about what's going on in the Democratic Party. Focus on what you have to do. Republicans, focus on your mission. Focus on getting the word out. Focus on getting out the vote efforts, getting out there block walking, getting literature out there, educating and informing people so that they are better activated. Focus on, if you're concerned about electoral confidence in the system that we have, become an election judge, become a poll worker, become a poll watcher, especially veterans. Let's get out there and make sure that nefarious things are not happening at some of these voting locations, because we know how to send up a salute report, size, activity, location, unit, time, equipment. We know what the 5 W's mean, who, what, when, where, and why. And so we need you to once again go out there and, as we say in the military, scouts out. Report what you see so that we can take action. I think it is absolutely great that all of a sudden now money is starting to shift over to the efforts of liberty and freedom in the United States of America. When a person like Elon Musk says he is going to, with others, guarantee $45 million per month in the rest of this election cycle to make sure that we do the right things with our electoral system so that we don't have what we saw 4 years ago. We got to make sure that we don't have secretaries of state, governors, or judges that are taking unconstitutional actions to undermine electoral system's confidence. Whoever heard of we're going to accept voting ballots after voting day? That's crazy. The only people that can change election law is the legislative branch, not jurists, not executive bureaucrats, not even a governor. He doesn't have that enumerated power. So all of those things have to get in place. And yes, you have to do as our founding fathers did, those 56 that signed the Declaration of Independence. You have to pledge your life. You have to pledge your treasure. You have to pledge your sacred honor. If you want to see the restoration of the longest running constitutional republic that the world has ever known. And I'm talking about here in Texas. I'm talking about right here in Dallas County. It's time for us to get out there and make a difference. You know, when you have the president of the Teamsters speak at the Republican convention, everybody out here wants the basic things. They want life, they want liberty, they want their property, they want it protected. They want economic empowerment. They don't want to be economically enslaved. They don't want to be part of a collective. They don't want to be subjugated. They want their children to have better educational opportunities. They want to have better economic opportunities. They want to be in safe and secure communities. They want the most vulnerable amongst us to be protected. That's that unborn baby in the womb, not dismembered, chopped up into little pieces. They want to make sure that we have safety on our streets and that people aren't flowing across our borders illegally, to include terrorists. They want to make sure that we're respected across the globe. They want to make sure that we have a strong military, as Ronald Reagan said, peace through strength. Those are some of the basic messages that we have to get out there. The message that counters the message of the left. And if you understand the message of America, then by golly, Oscar, you are steadfast and loyal.
Before they burn it down.